A Game of Thrones is George R. R. Martin's first novel in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, and this is part 1 of me reviewing every chapter in each book of each series. So the first chapter I'm going to be reading today is the Prologue. Now, the Prologue introduces us to 3 very important and interesting men. Waymar Royce, the youngest son of a noble clan, House Royce in the Vale. Then we have Jared, who is the elder of the group in the Night's Watch ranging party. He's experienced in ranging, so he's grumpy, he doesn't talk a lot, he's lost both ears, a couple fingers, and a couple toes to the cold. And then there's Will, he's an ex-poacher. He's the youngest of the group, he's a little more timid. I would say he's a little more scared, but not exactly. Now, I'm not going to be summarizing every chapter, because then that would just be me explaining everything. I'm going on the pretenses that you guys have read the book and understand what is happening. So, to start off, something I found interesting and funny is Waymar rage-baited Jared. He said, "Do the dead frighten you?" And the books mention that Jared did not rise to the bait. Did Waymar invent rage-baiting? Was he the first one in Westeros to rage-bait someone? Think about it. It's a very small moment in the books, but it allows us as the reader to kind of look and discover who Waymar and Jared are. We see that Waymar is jokey, he talks a lot, he tries to be funny, he likes to poke and prod at people, and we see that Jared is a little bit more calculating, not uncaring, but uncharismatic in the sense to where he doesn't like jokes, he doesn't like japes and gestures. He seems more firm and hard-fast. Another small moment that helps us understand the character dynamics is between Jared and Will. It's when Will is insisting that the men that he saw were dead, and Waymar's like, "No, they weren't dead, how do you know that?" Jared says, "Will saw them. If he says they are dead, then that is proof enough for me." I think this is trying to show the reader that Jared and Will have this strong bond between each other that Waymar just does not have, because Waymar is new to the group. He's only been in the Night's Watch for a couple months. I think it said 6 months, while Will's been in here 4 years and Jared's been here for 40 plus years. So Will probably has known Jared for almost half a decade at this point. And then after this, Waymar, man, funny moments with Waymar. Waymar is a lot more joking and japing than I remember. He really is a sassy king, but he jokes about Jared's concern for it being dark, and Waymar really jokes and japes a lot, and it's almost as if he needs to prove to these people that he can get stuff done, because he only really jokes when Jared is trying to challenge his ruling. It's when he tries to make suggestions. He never makes jokes when Jared's just like doing something. It's always like Jared saying, "Hey, I think we should do this, I think we should do that." And then Waymar butts in with some joke and response. So I think it's really telling that Waymar is probably insecure of himself. He probably thinks that Jared doesn't respect him, and Jared probably doesn't respect him. It mentions in the books that everyone in the Night's Watch jokes about about Waymar. They make fun of him. And I just feel like the jokes really help us understand Waymar's character more often. In fact, he's painted as incompetent. He brings the wrong horse for the job. He insists on wielding his sword in the bush when a small knife would be more helpful. But George still has us as the reader feeling almost sorry for Waymar. You see, he needs to be successful. He says, "I will not have my first ranging be a failure." And I think at the beginning of this, we realize that Waymar he's a bad person in the sense that he is rude to others, but he's one of the younger sons of a relatively large and successful house in the Vale. The Vale. So he probably has a need to prove himself. He isn't going to inherit any lands, so he feels like he needs to do something to where his name will be remembered. That's why he joined the Night's Watch. That's why he's leading the ranging. He wants people to see himself not as just the youngest son of House Royce, but as his own distinct person. Now we can move past the Waymar character and Jared and Will, and it's time for the best and most important scene in the prologue, the others. You see, the show does these people, these beings, a disservice. They paint them as old, like senior citizens with, white hair, and they kind of look like they're made of marble or something. But in the books, they're painted as these old, milk pale creatures whose armor shift and change in the colors, drifting between shades of dark and white. I had chills when I read their description, because George, he really introduces the writing style of less is more. I was actually shocked to find out just how little the others were described. We know that they kind of look like skeletons, maybe zombies. We know that their skin is milk pale, and we know that their armor shifts and changes between colors of white and black. That's it. That is all that we have gotten from this prologue. Yet I still feel terrified. I was so scared reading this. George keeps mentioning, like Will says to everyone, and he thinks to himself, that he has this feeling of fear just baked into his character. Every couple sentences, he's talking about how he's uneasy, he's on nerve. He does not know what is wrong, but he senses something in his bones that there is something to be afraid of in these woods. And it really leads us towards another great interaction between Waymar. It is when Waymar, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, it's when Waymar is meeting the others. And what we know of Waymar at this time, we know that he is sassy, we know that he jokes, he japes, and he's probably incompetent. So everyone was probably expecting him to run away at this moment, but he doesn't. Waymar stands his ground. He draws his long sword, a normal sword, not Valyrian steel, and he says, "Dance with me." He goes blow for blow with these magical creatures until, in my opinion, they pull a dirty trick and his sword shatters against their magical ice sabers. And then they get like 5 monsters to jump him, which, man, Waymar's death is something so expected and so unexpected at the same time. He also does something near the end that is so true to how his character should have acted that you almost aren't expecting it, but he falls to the ground, he covers his eyes, and it's almost like he gives up. He is afraid, he fears for his life. And I don't know if he falls to the ground because it's because of his wounds, but I don't think so. I think he drops to his knees out of pure terror. And during Waymar's interaction with death, Will is doing what everyone else would have done. He's hiding in a tree, afraid, terrified. He saw the others, and he knew in himself that he should warn Waymar. He should say, there are creatures in the woods, but he doesn't do anything. He sits in his tree, safe and secure, and he watches his leader die. And then he leaves. He drops down from the tree after the others are gone, after Waymar is dead. He takes Waymar's sword and he thinks to himself, I need to tell the Watch. I need to tell Sir Mormont. I need to warn them. And then he dies exactly like Waymar. Waymar comes back from the dead and chokes Will out. I just find it interesting that Waymar fights the others bravely. He meets them with sword and steel, and he is courageous to the bitter end. And Will isn't. Will is a coward. He hides. He runs away. He does not fight them, yet both of them die the same death. I feel like George is telling us something there. This is probably a theme. It's going to be brought back again and again and again. So, mark my words, that will be important later on. Alright, this is going to sum up my review of the prologue for A Game of Thrones. I'm going to attempt to do one of these a week. I'm going to fail at that, I'll tell you that. This is going to take a long time, so bear with me. I apologize for the poor microphone quality. I am running off of a $30 microphone I got about 5 years ago. If you have any complaints, feel free to buy me a new and better one. But that is going to be it for today. See you next week. Bye.